Oh, thank you. We're being recorded. And Jim, do you want to start off?
Sure, happy to, Julia. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So this presentation, consistent with past practice, is just to give an update as far as where the audit stands, talk about some of the financial highlights as far as what we've looked through already. We'll talk about the special projects update and sort of conclude by establishing a timeline for next steps. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and actually let Zach take over as far as presenting the audit status and giving this overview with the slide deck. So, Zach, I'll turn the floor over to you and you can go ahead and share the deck and present.
Just want to make sure I'm sharing correctly. Can everybody see my screen?
Good.
Yep. Yep.
Perfect. So thank you so much for having us this morning. All right. That's interesting. So today's agenda, we're going to go through the audit update. We'll take a look at the retirement system. We'll also talk about the single audit and what the plan is moving forward with the major federal programs that we'll be looking at in 2025. We'll have a special projects update, an audit timeline, what's been done so far and what the plan is moving forward, and then we'll leave it open for any questions. So an audit update, so preliminary audit procedures for the retirement system, the internal controls, planning forms and programs were all performed during the summer months. And then last week, we began our primary audit procedures on the June 30 year-end balances. And this also includes the implementation of the Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement number 101, which deals with compensated absences. So I'll just take a quick moment to maybe explain this a bit further. The city has always presented their compensated absences, their accrued sick and vacation liabilities in the financial statements, but the Governmental Accounting Standards Board changed how those liabilities are to be calculated starting with your June 30, 2025 financial statements. So myself, Jim Petrowski, Steve, and Stella sat down last week to have a conversation about those compensated absences and make sure that the city is going to be appropriately implementing that new governmental accounting standard. And the city gave both Jim and I back what their calculation for that liability, and Jim and I are going to be meeting tomorrow to look through it, make sure that we are in agreement with it, and get back to the city to give the double thumbs up that they're good to go, and we agree with the estimates that the city is making in relation to their sick and vacation accruals. For the retirement system,
I got a quick question. Is that okay?
Sure.
On the sick days, do you know how we look compared to other municipalities in terms of this liability? Because my understanding is we have this really generous sick leave policy for the teachers.
Off the top of my head, I don't know how you compare to other communities, Patrick. I'd be more than happy to take a peek at that and provide you back with some analysis. And Jim, I'll let you chime in if you've got a better answer than I do. But off the top of my head, I don't know how you compare to other communities, Patrick.
Patrick, can we get through the update and hold questions so we can get through
sure.
it? Thanks.
For the retirement system, the information below is going to be as of December 31st, 2024, which is the year end for your retirement system. So as of December 31st, 2024, the total pension liability was $863 million. And the town had, or excuse me, not the town, the city has a fiduciary net position of $587 million, which leaves a net pension liability of $276 million. This is a decrease from the prior year. The prior year had a liability of $308 million. And that decrease is primarily due to the results of investment performance. So that the retirement system saw a $48 million gain in calendar year 2024, which again, it was the primary driving force for that decrease in that liability from $308 million to $276 million. And the retirement system has been consistent from the prior year with their discount rate at 6.9%. As far as the single audits go, this is an estimate as of today, which is that the city had $21 million in expenses for their federal programs. And compared to last year they had about $25.2 million, so a slight decrease. And when we look at the major program determination for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2025, we're going to be auditing ARPA, child nutrition care or school lunch, and then Medicaid, which gives us about a 51% coverage over the single audits. Now, we've primarily completed the work already on ARPA as well as school lunch. We have yet to start Medicaid. We were unsure if we were going to be auditing Medicaid. That information came to us late last week, and it looks like we are going to have to audit Medicaid. So we'll get the requests out to the schools as soon as possible to get the ball rolling on that single audit as well.
Hey, Zach, just to chime in, just looking at the determination, last year we had 5 major programs. And I believe they most of them had started later than this point. So I think overall, looking at major programs compared where we are now to last year, we're much farther ahead as far as the program determination and the testing. I just wanted to chime in there with that.
Thanks, Jim. That's a good note to make. For our special projects update, we did go out for the city programs. We looked at both the Gath Memorial Pool and the Crystal Lake Beach. And we just had one small recommendation, is that there's no signatures on the reconciliations of the daily revenue reports. So the individuals who are performing that reconciliation, as well as the individual who's reviewing that reconciliation, just aren't documenting their performance of that reconciliation in their review of that reconciliation. So we're just recommending a simple signature on both of those. And the individuals that we met with, which I believe is the aquatics director, as well as the commissioner for the Parks and Recs, they both agreed with the recommendation and said that they would be implementing that as soon as possible. For circuit breaker, I know that there was a request for circuit breaker expenditures to be looked at. So we'll take a sample of circuit breaker expenditures and make sure that they are being done in accordance with DESE guidelines for circuit breaker. And then we do have some capacity for a school program with our remaining hours. And Jim, I'll turn it over to you here to chat about that.
Sure. So just looking at the nature of the circuit breaker testing and testing for DESE compliance, it was brought to our attention with Steve and Liam as far as the use of the school building revolving fund. And while not material to the financial statements, is still a decent volume of money to where we could perform a similar procedure over those expenditures as we are to circuit breakers. So we feel like these two tests would work well as far as performing them really in correlation with each other. So thought is look at circuit breaker testing for compliance as well as the school building revolving funds. But the tests we envision would be of a similar nature, just looking at expenditures for reasonableness and compliance.
So for our audit timeline, again, last week we did, we were on site performing work. And then, we came back this week and we're still going through it. There's some open items, but nothing large or concerning it by any meaning. And Jim, maybe I can turn over to you because I think you maybe have a better idea of what the timeline is moving forward for deliverables of the ACFR.
Yep. So in discussing the timeline as far as the ACFR delivery, we'd be looking at a similar timeline to last year. We'd want to issue with an early January date. Last year, we were able to issue with an audit report dated December 31. So just looking to get a similar timeline as far as the ACFR issuance, and that's something we'll continue to work with city management about. I believe also, as far as the next meeting of this committee, is actually a debrief conducted next spring to connect on the audit reports. We'll obviously share the reports with management and share with the audit committee prior to that meeting. But just looking at as far as the final reports being provided in advance of that meeting, we'd probably be issuing everything, I would say, with the financial statements around the January timeline and the single audit sometime in February or March. We could reconvene in the reports sometime next spring. So that's initially what we'd be looking at for a timeline. And with that said, Zach, I don't know if we have any additional pieces before we go into questions. I do just want to speak on, Patrick, you had brought up the question regarding the compensated absences liability in relation to other communities. So it's early on in terms of we have this ongoing for a lot of municipalities as far as they're calculating it. What we're seeing is that many of the municipalities are adopting a last in, first out methodology to the liability. So essentially what we're seeing is that their estimate is assuming that any leave that's being used next year is going to come out of the leave that's being accrued next year. So essentially, you have this situation where if employees' trends over the past few years, they're using less sick time than they're earning, the liability isn't growing greatly for those employees as far as the sick time. However, if we identify employees that are using liabilities in excess of what they're earning, we're digging into those employees a little more as far as determining what their year-end liability would be. So we see that so far, many of the communities that we work with are adopting a similar approach, and that's the approach we're working with through the city now.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful.
Sure.
So just to follow up on that, so I understand, is the last in, first out based on dollar amount? So their sick time is worth, the recently earned sick days are worth more, so they're keeping the amount used or accrued versus keeping it consistent with what it would cost?
I believe it's not so much as far as the rate as it is with the timing of the use of the liability, Julia. So we're looking at it as far as all the city's employees. We got at the data as far as, okay, this employee for the past 3 years, let's say they've accrued 75 hours and they've only used 50 of them. Well, if that trend were to continue, they're going to continue to accrue more sick liability than they use. And in situations where if that time isn't vesting, essentially you don't have a liability, because if that trend were to continue, they're going to accrue more than they use over time. However, we have to also look at situations where if that time is vested for folks that let's say they've accrued a certain amount of hours that can be paid upon retirement, we have to consider that in the calculation as well. And for those that are going to have those balances or expected to have those vested balances accrue at year end, we'd have to calculate that liability as of June 30th of 25. Does that help clarify?
I'll have to I'll have to think that over again. But I don't want to hold people up. Okay, so I think last year we met in December. Are you suggesting we meet in January instead of December?
We could reconnect, and Julie, I apologize. I got that wrong here.
Historically, CLA has gone over the draft financials in mid-December.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring
Okay.
to.
Jim, I just looked at, we did meet in December last year.
Okay, I apologize. That's my mistake, Julia. Yes, December meeting would be fine.
Okay, and Rick, is there anything we need to avoid in terms of like Hanukkah or anything, holidays that would affect a morning meeting?
I would say just the first night, some people first and second.
Okay, so what would be a good date for a December meeting then? Let's see. I don't see Hanukkah on my calendar, so do you happen to know when it is?
Yeah, it starts on the 14th.
Okay,
I believe the night of the 14th.
okay, so 14 and 15 would be the first day, so we'd be safe on like is the 17th good, or let's see, when did we do it last year? 17th, 10th?
Or keep it simple or keep clear of it and aim for Wednesday, the 10th.
Yeah, that exactly, right, yeah, okay,
Sounds good.
okay. All right. That down. And so on the special project, school related, so the circuit breaker, you're saying you have time to do that and another school related item?
That's correct. It'd be the circuit breaker and the use of the school building revolving fund expenditures. Because we envision the testing we would do between the two programs would be pretty similar.
Okay, all right, I think that makes sense to me.
I got a question about the circuit breaker. Is that okay?
Please.
So historically, I just want to can you guys just elaborate on the scope of what you're doing with the circuit breaker? Because It is, I think historically, it's been the greatest source of volatility in terms of cash flow for the school budget. That's my impression of it. So, I mean, what's the scope? Is the scope just to make sure that the way we're applying for it is, in compliance with state regulation? Or is there any, within that scope, is there any, make sure that we're getting everything that we can get out of circuit breaker? Is that within the scope?
Zach, do you want to speak on this, or do you want me to?
I'm happy to speak on it. I think what we're going to be looking at, Patrick, is more of the expenditures to make sure that they're in compliance with the ESE guidelines. They're pretty clear about what can and can't be expended through circuit breaker. And we'll also make sure that any funds that are carried forward from one year to the next are, again, also in compliance with DESE guidelines. Again, those are pretty clear as well, that what can be carried forward from one year to the next. As far as looking at it from a budgetary perspective, I think that's outside the scope of what we can do. To answer your question, Patrick.
And do you mean, sorry, Zach, do you mean that that's outside of the scope of what you can do or are allowed to do based on the hours that you think this project might take?
And Jim, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's more out of the scope of the audit in a sense of providing a budgetary or cash flow recommendation outside of the scope of the presentation of the financial statements, essentially, is where we're going with it.
Okay. So it's more inappropriate than bound by hours.
Correct.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And I think you said it will include that we're putting in for reimbursement in the required time. I think it's like within 1 year, correct? That we can't put in for an expense that is too old.
Right.
We can't spend. Yeah. Okay.
And this is my first year on the committee. Has circuit breaker been audited and tested before, or is this the first time we're doing it?
As far as a scope of this nature, this would be the first one in some time. To our understanding, is DESE is supposed to also be performing a programmatic review every 3 or so years, and to our understanding, they have not been out for a recent review. So we feel like the timing is going to work well in terms of at least we can look at it. Encompass something into the audit scope, but to our understanding, it hasn't been looked at by us or by DESE in some time.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad you're doing it.
Sure.
Yeah, Patrick. Yeah, back during budget, the superintendent sent us a bunch of information on circuit breaker to help everyone understand it better, and I'll send that on to you because I did note that DESE does audit, but it's not clear when or how often. So it's good to know that we are getting ahead of that. Right.
Just one other piece to clarify. It's the circuit breaker isn't the most material of funds we would look at. We would encompass it into the audit if there were to be something unusual in the appearance of the year-end fund balance of the expenditures that we would have certainly looked at over the past few years. I don't have that information available, but from compliance with DESE, this would be the first deep dive in some time.
Great.
Just want to clarify that.
Well, I want to thank John and also Alicia Pidaloo for the idea.
And
all right, I guess if there's not, is there anything else?
Sorry, Julia. Sorry. So the remaining, hours that we haven't allocated yet or haven't figured out a topic for, is that a significant bucket of time? Like I'm just, because I'm assuming there's one more topic we should explore as a group to kind of round out the audit. Is that accurate?
Between the two pools and the two school projects, we weren't envisioning working in another topic, but if there's something that you're...
Oh no, that's fine, Jim. I thought that slide kind of led me down the path of, hey, we might be able to take on one more topic, but if not, that's fine.
Well,
And
they
you're,
are.
you're right, John, and that's where the school building
Yeah.
revolving fund came into play. So
Okay,
that's-
sorry. Right, that was before. Got you. Caffeine is still being applied. Okay, got
Same over here.
it.
Okay, does anyone else have any other questions or topics or suggestions?
I would say if there was extra time, one thing that might be worth looking into is overtime by the police force. Because I know it's generally a problem in other municipalities, and in my previous reviews of, I mean, I've taken a pretty close look by like regular, normal, casual citizen standards in the city budget because of what's going on with the school budgets and all that. And I did notice I was like surprised at the amounts that we're spending. But I also understand a lot of that's compensated, like by say Whole Foods or whatever. But it seems like that is something worth looking at if we had extra time.
Well, we'll need topics for next year, so let's keep that one on the list. And while we're at it, Steve, is there any progress on the incorporating the detail accounting, completing sort of the, I guess it's the expenditure side into
The police details integrated into Munis.
into Munis, the perpetual item that's noted year after year?
I have not, I can tell you, I know it is not up and running. I
Mhm.
haven't checked for a status update with the police since the spring.
Excuse me. Can I jump in? Tonight, everybody, at Public Safety, we're going to have police and fire in for their update, and they're going to be, they do it every few well, maybe once or twice a year with us. So if you want to zoom into that, you'll learn a lot. Also, Patrick,
Yeah.
want to give me a call anytime. It's a interesting, complicated thing, the overtime. And I worked on a commission under Seti Warren, analyzing the police force for an entire year. And
Yeah.
I've got so much information in my head, I'm happy to give it to you and bring you up to date.
Okay.
Give me a call.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't make PS&T tonight because I got PNS, and if I weren't on PNS, I'd be wanting to go to the public facilities meeting all about water. So but I'll listen to it later.
We haven't figured out how to clone you yet, Julia?
I haven't figured out how to triple Zoom. I can't barely double Zoom.
All right, just kidding.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. And I guess we'll see you on December, what do we say, 14th?
10th.
10th. Okay,
Take care.
thank
All
you
right,
all.
thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. Have a good one.